good afternoon, and blessings. I tell you, it's just good to be back with you all. And it's a great show today. There's a lot of information going on around us, politics and all. But let me just first, I thank God for this opportunity to bring information, true knowledge to you. At the same time, I want to thank my crew here for helping me do that. My producers, Sheila and Lula, advisor Juanita. I do thank my promo crew, Alwa, Elijah, and Chastity. And of course, I thank Norm, this young man here. He's the engineer, but he keeps us real. I thank my co-host, King Professor Terry Benjamin. Yes, King, yes, he is. And of course, you all know me. I am Ruby Williams Shivers, your unapologetic amateur, still looking for experts in Africanism. I keep stressing that because one of these days we're all going to realize that we need something other than what we have had.
That's right.
What we have had is sort of just a brush over of trying to help us stay afloat. It's not to get us back to where we were, and that's the idea. That's what I'm talking about. Get us back to where we were. And in order to do that, we're going to have to do the same as anybody else or anything else that has gone through major catastrophes. That's right. I use the virus as an example when I say when this virus came in and we all affected by it one way or the other, if it were not ourselves personally, our relatives or whomever,
That's right.
killed over 2 million people, and all of a sudden we kind of knew that it was somebody else that needed to come aboard to help us get through it. We never even thought about going to relatives or entertainers or sports figures, even folks who are academicians. We didn't think about that because we knew they were not scheduled personally to do what they needed to do. So we knew we needed specialties. We knew we needed someone who had studied the viruses, the virologists or whomever. So that's the same as with what we need in order to get ourselves back on track. We need people who have studied what I coined. Well, I didn't coin, I just picked up the phrase Africanism. But I did define Africanism in a way that maybe a lot of people have not thought of. But what I mean is have to have studied from where our beginning, from when we came into Africa and what we did while we were there to create societies that everybody copied today. And when we were brought over here, snatched from our homeland and brought over here and going through the Middle Passage, and then after that having to bring us to the slave blocks and hoisted us up on these slave blocks to be sold. Auctioned off to the highest bidder. And after that, the kind of inhumane treatment that we went through, still going through, and then the stripping. I tell people when I use the word, said we need to redefine ourselves and not call ourselves slaves as other folk, because what we went through was something obviously different. And it was so different that we have to define it as such. Otherwise, other folks are just going to kind of come in and say that they, reap their benefit from the same thing we should benefit, and that's why we have so much problem with our reparation now, because everybody want to claim, but we know what it was that we went through was so different, and those are the things that we got to really be very sure of. And gets back to when I come in, I always tell you all that I quote this scripture, Hosea 4:7, that said, "My people will perish for lack of knowledge," and I believe in that means true knowledge, because if we don't have the true knowledge, we just got a lot of other knowledge out there, and this recent what's going on now with the election kind of shows you that we are not careful, we're going to just take in knowledge and believe it. But I know that with this podcast, that's what we try to do. We try to bring you true knowledge, lest we perish for lack of it. Yeah, because we do have so much on our plate today. But what happened, though, we are wrapping up this month for reparation.
Reparations.
Doesn't mean, though, we won't be talking about it. Because as I said to you, reparation is the elephant in the room.
That's right.
And if the elephant is not contained or conquered, that will nullify the false image of us being, affirmative action, DEI, and welfare hang-ons. Because we will be equally equipped to move in the same lane as everyone else. Because, see, it does not matter who you are or how many degrees you have or how much individual money one has. If you're black, you are still labeled. You notice I didn't say they believe that now. Because they don't believe that mess, but they'll pretend that they do because they know better. But you are judged by your collective worth. So that's why we say reparation will bring that forward, that we all will be playing from the same playing field.
That's right. That's right.
So we will continue to talk about reparation until that check is cashed.
Okay.
Right. We have a whole lot of stuff to talk about suddenly, though. Our new presumptive president, this upcoming election, this madman who declares if he goes, if he's going to be a dictator, who is proposing in writing, he said, called Project 2025, which will take us back at least 50 years.
At least.
I don't know how many of you watch MSNBC, but Joy Reid will dissect and explain this Project 2025 this entire week. So please be sure to watch her and listen to her show. We need to know more about, we just need to know more knowledge.
That's right.
I talk about it all the time. We don't want to perish for lack of it. That's why I bring these great guests, great people on this podcast. And today I've got another winner, Dr. Linda J. Caldwell Epps. Welcome, Dr. Epps. I read your bio and was totally blown away.
Impressive.
In addition to the academic, you are bringing information to our people that is necessary for us to reclaim our greatness.
Yes.
This is what my podcast is all about. True knowledge, lest we perish for lack of it. And again, that's Hosea 4:6.
Right.
Now, I'm going to abbreviate your bio and let you tell us what energy pill you take to do all this. Okay, now let me just read it.
Special.
Gotta be something special.
I'm just one of those people who has never required a lot of sleep.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's what it is.
It's always been that way.
That's the secret sauce, huh?
Yeah, I'm
sauce.
nocturnal, and I've just never required much more than 4 to 6 hours
Oh,
sleep.
So
So maybe now it's more like 5 to 7, but really.
Yeah, I understand. That's me. I wake up 5 o'clock every morning.
Yeah.
But let me just read read a little bit of your Bible. I'm just going to dissect it a little bit, abbreviate it a little bit, right? Dr. Linda J. Caldwell Epps is president and CEO of 1804 Consultants and a founding member of Sankofa Collaborative. It says that she brings to clients more than 45 years of experience working with educational and cultural institutions. She's a state. Okay, let me just say this. I'm trying to abbreviate. New Jersey Network. Let me just do it. If I do it right, I can do it right. She served as vice president for institutional relations at the New Jersey Network Television and Radio. Okay. In her role as Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, she helped create an award-winning campus-wide student assessment project to help ensure student and faculty success. She served as a Ford Foundation-funded consultant to several institutions of higher learning. And these are colleges that, including King College in New Hampshire, the University of Massachusetts of Boston, Union College in Ohio, on issues of diversity and equity in higher education. Now, Dr. Caldwell Epps had worked with various history and culture institutions, including the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. You know, she is co-chairperson of the New Jersey Revolution 250 Advisory Council. Dr. Caldwell is the recipient of numerous awards. Okay? And again, I'm just trying to, you got such a, I'm going to let you talk about it, but I just want to kind of abbreviate here. Dr. Caldwell Epps holds a bachelor's degree from Rutgers University Douglas College, a master's degree in American Studies from Seton Hall University, my alma mater, and a D.Lit from Drew University. Her dissertation is titled From Zion to Brick City. That sounds like Newark to me.
Yeah, that's it.
She serves on many boards, various boards, including the Rutgers University Board of Trustees, and she is also a member of the Shiloh Hope Presbyterian Church in 313 Ancestors Speak Board of Directors. Right. Dr. Caldwell Epps serves as a member of the Board of Deacons of Bethany Baptist Church, Newark, New Jersey. She's a lifelong New Jersey resident and lives in Newark, New Jersey. Now, I've done the introduction, but what we want to hear from you, Dr. Epps, is give us a little bit of, as I say, I read your resume and your bio, and it's very impressive. So aside from the academics, you have done so much for keeping our people informed, and that's what I am always so interested in. I do know that in order for us to regain any sense of semblance of what we were, we're going to have to know who we really are, and we're going to come from people like you who've done the research and studied us, and so we got so much to talk about. But what I want you to do right now, because we don't want to get ahead of you, have so much on you to tell us about. So start from wherever you want to.
Let me begin talking. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. When I was asked, I was, of course, overjoyed because this is important that we spread the message.
Oh, yes.
Let me say I am very thankful to those people who 50 years ago protested to include African American studies or black studies in the curriculum for colleges and universities, but also for elementary schools and high schools in our state. Because I grew up in Elizabeth, which has always had a sizable African population.
Right.
But I don't remember ever learning anything in school in my 12 years of going through that system, except for maybe an occasional name like Frederick Douglass.
Right.
That's right.
But I never remember hearing anything. I don't know if your experience was different.
Oh,
because we know
similar.
each other. We probably haven't seen
we
each
know
other
each
in
other,
50 or 60 years.
It's
but
been
we know
long time.
I'm glad to see I still am recognizable.
Yes, you
right?
are, Linda.
John
I knew you as Linda Caldwell.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, but it's been, I think,
you.
since probably you graduated from high school. He's a little older than me.
A little older.
He admits it.
1 year.
But I never remember hearing anything about it. And when I went off to college that first year, it happened to be, I think, the 50th anniversary of Paul Robeson entering Rutgers University. I had no idea who Paul Robeson was. And if the university, which was, of course, very white at that time, was honoring this great man of color, I said, wow, I am really ignorant and stupid. I have never heard of this man. Then when I found out he was still alive at that point, I said, he's not even dead. He's still alive and doing it. And I still have never heard of him. And that's what's really, it was that shame that set me on the course of trying to find out as much as I possibly could about my people who migrated here against their will from another continent thousands of miles away.
Right.
That's where I started.
Yeah. Well, there's always something that's the interesting thing about us here, particularly the Africans in this part of the diaspora.
Yes.
There's something sometime that just hit us at the right place at the right time that will make us want to know, want to find out what it is that they're trying to keep from us and hide from us. Or it just, I tell the story, but I just created a little, my crew and I, a homeschooling for our young ones from 6 to 11 years old. There's about 9 of them. We just bring them in once a week, 1 hour a day, just to teach them their history. And that all came from Governor DeSantis. I sent a letter to him, thanking him for, that wokeness he was talking about. You awakened me.
That's right.
And when you took the school history out of the schools, I knew then we needed, as black folk, to try to remedy that.
That's true.
And one of the ways is to always, and I think we should have been doing, I know a lot of us still do it. I'm not the first.
Yeah.
But teach our children before they leave the cradle, before they leave home, who they are, so when they get out amongst the DeSantis and etc., they'll know the lies when they see them, or they'll know the real truth about who they are. So that's why I advise and encourage all black folk who can just get your groups around, little children, whether they're your relatives or friends or whomever, bring them together once a week and insist that they learn about themselves. Least they will not learn anything.
I actually teach an adult Sunday school class in my church. But my lessons take into consideration, I'm Baptist, take into consideration the Bible and Bible verses. But I take my lessons every week from the New York Times or CNN or MSNBC and say, how does this impact people of color?
Right.
What does this have to do with our community?
Yes.
What does, and this is the bigger question, what kind of economic ramifications are we going to have from this kind of decision?
Wow.
Because that's what it boils down to.
Right.
Yeah.
Power and money.
Yes.
And money is power.
Exactly.
And that is what this country is built on.
That's
in
why
our home city of Elizabeth,
Mm-hmm.
Berkeley and Carteret offered to pay white men, award them with additional acreage of land for every person, every slave that they brought in, up to 150 acres of free land, depending upon the value of that enslaved person. That tells you right away money is what was valued.
Yes, exactly.
Someone might have had a little faith in there. All these colonies were not founded for religious freedom as they would have us to believe.
No.
Right.
But it was money.
It was money.
Which ties directly to reparations and
Exactly.
why we have not made, as a people, significant economic progress for the last 90 years.
Yeah.
Even with Johnson's anti-poverty program and the civil rights legislation, some of us has squeaked through up a little, climbed a few steps.
Those are just bandages.
But basically, the rank and file, the statistical numbers, which I'm afraid to quote because I don't have my paper in front of me, and I don't want to say something wrong. But statistically, the number has not changed significantly. We have the same number of people in poverty as we had 60 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, that's what reparation would do.
Exactly.
It would put us on a level playing field, at least, because money, like you say, money talks.
That's right.
And they, on the way, they will be able to recognize that we recognize our worth. We recognize our worth, that we demand it from that position.
That's right.
There's nothing wrong with affirmative action. There's nothing wrong with DEI, but those are just bandages just to other folks to come in and grab it. Because if you, I think, from what I understand, white women benefited more from affirmative action than we did, because they could easily say their men did, take from them, but not on an equal footing with what was taken from us. But they can claim that. Well, with the affirmative action was the same. Well, that was the affirmative action.
That's right.
But with the DEI, well, no. Let me back up and say about the reparation. I understand now they want to change the name. See, they're slick with whether they call it something else. Closing the wealth gap. Well, if you close the wealth gap, you will allow then again, like with affirmative action, other folks to come in because maybe their wealth gap had been affected by the white power structure, male power structure. So anytime someone else can come in on whatever you're doing, that's why I specify ours as Africanism, because ours is so uniquely different. What we went through is so uniquely different that we should not be included with anyone else. Least they can get a foot just get enough in there to say, well, I was offended too.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
But now, Dr. Epps, let me ask you something again, because I'm just so impressed with what you have been doing. Like I say on my podcast, always, we need information. We need it so that coming from folks like yourself who've studied it, so we can know that there's something deeper than us just being who we are in this country. Because I wrote a book called Verbal Healing. Mm-hmm. What it is, it's a book of expressions that we say about ourselves often, and we mean no harm, but we get it from other folks defining us. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we say, well, we don't do this, or we don't do that, or we are worse than enemy, we are like crabs in the barrels. Well, those expressions come from us not knowing the whole situation around why we are in the position we are in.
We are sometimes harder on ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And I always say, as educated as we all, very educated, but we don't think beyond the circumstances. We see a circumstance, and we know that's the circumstance. We see ourselves as behind everyone else, economically, in health-wise, but we got to know the reason why. That way we won't.
Well, our identity was stripped, and this lack of self-esteem that we have, I believe, was all by design.
Oh, I know.
And it took generations for them to do it to us, and it's going to take generations for us to get through it.
Undo it.
But each generation has to do their part. Yeah. Each parent has to do their part. Each auntie has to do their part to make sure that not just our children, but our adults as well, who may not have had the privilege of the joy of reading like I have, may not know either. So this is, I can tell you stories which could last for hours about audiences that I have spoken to and tried to be affirming in what I was saying, and would have another person of color in the audience ask a question that would, just try and destroy the goodness that I was trying to promote.
Exactly.
So we have to work on adults as well as children, which is why I teach that Sunday class that I teach. We have to learn again to start reading newspapers. It's so tempting to just turn on the news, right? And it's not that you get 100% the truth through newspapers, but the reading allows you to develop your own analytical skills, your own way to strategize and to think about this in a different way. So we have to do that. With my own children, my husband and I were very when we were going to buy property, buy a house, we were very careful about where we wanted to live, because we wanted to live someplace where they would feel welcome and that they would feel affirmed, where I wouldn't be afraid to have them outside playing because of either black violence or white bigotry, right? So we chose a neighborhood that we thought was good and safe for them, and we actually lived there for 42 years. But when my younger son was somewhere around 4 years old, my children were invited to a birthday party in a neighboring town, which I will not mention, but it was an all-white town, and I couldn't see the house numbers to go to find for the party. So I said, "Let's get out and walk. It's in here somewhere." And we stopped and asked a group of dog walkers who were there with their dogs discussing, about 6 o'clock in the evening. And I said, "Can you please tell me where 758 is?" And they said, "Oh, it's just 2 houses down, just walk." I must have taken a step or two, and one of them said, "Why are Adele and Bill bringing niggers into the neighborhood?" Excuse me for the word.
Really?
So I stopped in my tracks, and I said, "Now, why did they say that?" And my son said, "Why are you upset? They weren't talking to us. They were talking to some people called niggers or something like that." So as careful as you are, you have to also make sure that you expose them to the ugliness that is out there. I said, "Okay, I've got to do better, because he's got to know when someone's calling him something they shouldn't call him."
That's right.
Exactly.
So it's very complicated. It's not easy. And we're all just, so carefully still trying to work our way through this. There's no one pat easy answer. I think it's complicated. It's painful. it's painful because there are certain things I still have difficulty watching or reading about that happened to ours. But we have to overcome that because we have to, every generation, we have to teach in such a way that eventually one day we will get out of this.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good
And
point.
no one can do it but us. We can look for things from the government and from the church, but really
and we're going to have to do it, Dr. Epps, I'm convinced. We're going to have to do it in a very specialized way, the same as anyone else get treatment from whatever catastrophe that they've gone through. And that's how I define this. There was a catastrophe we went through as a people.
Of course.
And so in order for us to find that, we can't even depend on just ordinary people, our parents, our teachers, because they don't know. We are in a quandary. What it is, and I make the analogy about this virus that came through. I say, if I can do no better than that, I can give you an analogy. When it came through, it was something so uniquely different than anything else any of us had ever seen or witnessed. And over maybe 100 or so years that anything had come through like that, if at that time. I went to my primary doctor at some point when it was all over the place. And he said right away, I'm not the expert. Now, he understood that this was going to take, he had gone to school and medical doctor and everything, but it wasn't something he was an expert in. So until we as African people begin to see ourselves so different that whatever we're in, it's going to take certain people. And I call it the experts in Africanism. That's how I define my show here. Unapologetic amateur, looking for experts in Africanism. Someone who have studied thoroughly, all the way from where we was born, birth, and to when we were snatched and stolen from our homeland. And to when we crossed the Middle Passage, to when we they were hoisted us up on those slave blocks. When they got us and then they mistreated us so badly. When they stripped us, and the two things that makes our job, trying to get people to redefine what we went through. It's not slavery, because if it's slavery, it's the same as, because right away, Dr. F, people will say, well, your own people enslaved you. Well, if that's slavery, then what we went through 200 years, 400 years ago was not slavery. It's something different. It was genocide by, Ma'afa, they call it, but it was something different. We need to define it that way, because otherwise other folks will believe that, will think we know better.
Right.
But like the doctor said to me, I'm not the expert.
That's right.
We need people specifically who will go in and study us from A to Z. I tell everybody I'm an expert in living black, because I live black every day. I get up in the morning, I know what black is. But I'm not an expert in black living. Black living entails all that I talked about, and one of the things that particularly, it means that we need to know how to get out from under it. So that's how I say the three things we need, Dr. F. We're going to need the expert in history. First of all, we're going to need our faith-based people, because we are very faith-based people, and we. Could you turn that one? We are very faith-based people, and we know there's a God somewhere. And we're going to need the historians that thoroughly knowledge of where we're going. And we're going to need the psychologist, the person who will be able to help us define. Like Dr. Joy DeGraw said, she's the post-traumatic slave person. Dr. Cress Wilson, the Cress Pell, and other experts in the areas, and you and people like yourself. We're going to need people to get together in a specific way for doing a specific thing to try to unravel all that stuff that we can't understand ourselves. Because we will be the first one sometime to say, well, we just don't want to do it.
That's right.
We don't want to do this, because we don't know.
No, we don't understand. I have a physician friend who says, I believe there's something in our DNA that has happened to us through these hundreds of years. That we have to fight against. That we have to start retraining ourselves how to react to certain things, and what kind of information we take in, how we synthesize it, because that should be downtrodden people in some ways is in our DNA, which is why we sometimes battle with each other.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
definitely.
and don't understand.
Right.
Yeah.
But-
I wonder if I can mention a project that I have upcoming, because
Please
I
do.
also feel that we need to take a holistic approach
Mm-hmm.
to
beautiful. Yeah.
studying. It's not just Black history that you put in a class, or
Right.
African American literature,
Yeah, yeah.
but we have done a good deal of research, not just me, but other historians and newspaper writers and about a man who was enslaved in Newark, New Jersey,
Okay.
served during the Revolutionary War with George Washington in place of his master,
Okay. Wow.
was in the war for the entire period, was dismissed even from the very beginning to the Battle of Yorktown, where the surrender was,
Yeah, yeah.
was dismissed, given his freedom and an acre of land, and became what we know as the first documented person of African descent to own his own business in Newark, and we think all of New Jersey. We have discovered his descendants
Oh, okay.
in Ohio and Texas, and we know who his descendants are in Ghana.
Okay.
We have done DNA traces. We know that these people are related. And next year, we will be doing a week-long series of events and programs from every discipline. As a horticulturalist, you know,
Okay.
what did he know? What kind of plants did he grow?
Right.
As a devout church person, how did he connect his spiritual side that he was brought from Ghana as a spoil of Word 15? So how does his faith that he had in Ghana relate to the Christian faith that he found in the United States?
Okay.
Rutgers is doing a 2-day symposium, having academics from every way discuss him, what his life would have been like, how he became Americanized. So I think we need to do more like that. We don't need to relegate Black literature, Black history, Black science into separate places. This is an integrated thing, and white people have benefited as much from
Oh, yeah.
African culture as we have.
Even, I think, more.
And more. And they need to know that as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
because they would not have the wealth and the kind of
Yeah, that's right.
what they have had it not been for the
So we're
Africans
taking
that
a
they brought up.
holistic approach to this.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were talking about this person that, what's the name?
Oh,
'Cause I
Cujo
read-
Benquante.
Cujo Benquante.
Yeah,
I
Cujo
ran
Benquante.
something off of him because I heard that you were
Yes.
interested in researching this
And
project.
just let me say one more thing about him. His tribe, his clan in Ghana, every year, just as we do for 9/11, they read the names of all the people that disappeared from that tribe, and they did not know they don't know what happened to them. They've
Exactly.
been doing this for 300 years, right?
Yes.
Cujo Benquante is one of those names
Oh,
that
wow.
they have been reading. But he will not have to be on that list next year because we know what happened to him. And we're
Okay.
bringing his Ghanaian family and his
Man, that's beautiful.
those relatives
That's
from
great.
Ohio together
Right.
next year at May 3rd at a big ceremony, and we're going to have a reburial for him and his
Okay.
wife
That's
and
amazing.
children, and
That's
it's and if we did it for this one person, that can be done for a number of us. So we need to train our children. How do we do genealogy? How we often say we don't know where we came from, what tribe we came from. Well, there are ways now that we can find out, and with
Yes.
with the science,
Yeah, the science is there.
there
now.
are lots of things that we can do.
Exactly. My church, First Baptist Church of Lincoln Garden, Dr. Quick, we just went through that. I just learned my lineage, both on my mom's side and the dad's side.
And it helps.
It helps a whole lot,
It
makes you
helps.
feel good about yourself. I learned that, I'm not going to try to quote it because I forgot now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even, now you
That's
know
okay.
that is not right.
That's okay.
Brain freeze there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went through that last month, a couple of months ago. The pastor, he had the lady come in from African ancestry, and she did this thing, and we had a little celebration after we all discovered where we came from, our ancestor roots and everything. It was exciting,
Yes.
interesting,
Yes.
and it taught us a lot, and the young folks were so excited about them being able to pinpoint They didn't have to say I'm from North Carolina,
That's
South
right.
Carolina, when they were with other youngsters who could say I'm from Finland or,
Right. That's
or
right.
Australia. Yeah, so that's a
I'm
great
from
thing.
Mozambique, right? You know, they can say,
They can say
Yeah.
that, right?
which means
right.
a lot.
Yeah,
it means a
the-
lot.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Nigeria. That's
Nigeria,
where my
Nigeria, okay, yeah.
paternal part of me is from Nigeria. And forgot the other. I won't forget it the next time.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. But it is so great to know. It makes you feel so good to know that you have some place to call home.
Yes.
You know.
You know, we react to the tragedies like George Floyd and countless others,
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yes.
which we should.
Yes.
But we also have to pay attention to that other side, the love that black families are capable of bringing
Yes.
to their children and to other children.
Yeah, the village.
So we have to fight, you know, against those injustices,
Yes,
but we
yes.
also have to pay a close attention to our own mental health
Yes,
and our
yes.
spiritual health.
You
Yes,
just
yes.
said it.
Yeah.
Mental health is such an important part
It is,
of where we got to start defining us from. We are just as mental as we are physical.
That's right, right.
So we have physical ailments, we have mental ailment. And I find that our young people are reading where they're having so much issues, so many issues around mental illness.
That's right, yeah.
I had not even thought about our young people committing suicide at the
Suicide.
level that they're doing.
but it's
now.
happening.
It's happening.
But it is happening.
It's happening.
And it's happening that they are not grounded. They probably don't know as well as we do. But I came from a point where at least it wasn't slavery, as my grandchildren would think.
Yeah, yeah.
But I came from a point at least I knew what the situation was, so I could have a vicarious feeling
Yeah, yeah,
toward
yeah.
it.
You know, it's
They don't even, they've come up now in a system where they have not seen that, haven't read about it, taken history out of the school, so they don't know about it. So you can imagine they're so confused, so mentally confused. That's why a lot of them are just losing it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Years ago, I believe his name was Skinner. Terry, remember, he was the chaplain for the Washington Redskins. He was a guest speaker at our church, and he said something that has stuck with me. He said, "We now are facing generations of children who may not have one person in their life that is an example of someone trying to lead a good and righteous life."
Oh, wow. That's
It
sad.
used to be,
Sad.
if it wasn't a parent,
Yeah,
your
yeah,
parents,
yeah.
it would be the next door neighbor,
Yes.
or it could be
Yes.
your aunt,
Right.
or it could be your grandparent. He said, or it could be a sports star
Yeah,
or a movie star.
That's right.
But you know they do wrong just like we do. He said so. Each one of us, you know, needs to be responsible in our actions and in our words
Yeah.
of putting forth positivity
Yeah.
and giving strength and giving courage and you know, doing what's right, especially for our children, but for other adults as well.
Yeah.
But Dr. Epson, one of the things I want to just ask
I wish you all would just call me Linda.
I'm not supposed to know you because you're.
Oh,
you're-
okay.
But anyway,
we declared
Yeah,
that
right,
already.
right. 1804 Consultants and Sankofa Collaborative.
Okay.
What are their approaches to this whole question of reparations? Is it a different approach or is it the same approach or what?
1804 is a company that I started after I formally retired. I was president and CEO of the New Jersey Historical Society. And when I retired, historic houses and museums and libraries were still asking me to do things that I used to do. So I said, well, I need to just put this together and form this company.
Yes.
I didn't want to name it after myself. But 1804 is a year that emancipation started
Right.
in New Jersey for people who were enslaved.
something.
And it is also the year of the Haitian Revolution.
Okay.
So that's where 1804 came from. So people employ me through 1804 to do things.
Yeah.
As the owner of 1804, the William Trent House in Trenton, New Jersey, employed me because they had some visitors to their house and they said, well, this was here in 1760 something. There must have been people who were enslaved
That's
that
right.
served
Must have
William
been.
Trent.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the guide at that point, who is now the director, did not have an answer and decided that he was going to write a grant to try and do research, which he did. And he found the names of some enslaved people who were there. And we were trying to figure out what their life might be like. How could he develop an exhibit that exemplified the people who were enslaved there? And he asked questions that, quite frankly, I could not answer. And I said to him, why don't we just get together a focus group of people who have other historic houses who may have done this, or even if they haven't done it, who may have thought about it. If you were a landowner in 1700, most likely, and because I told you about Berkeley and Cart, most likely you got money to have enslaved people.
Right.
So they're facing the same issue. We gathered together we invited 20 people to come. We had about 40 to show up. And we did an all-day workshop on doing research and properly interpreting the lives of enslaved people who might have worked there. The people who came said, this is wonderful. Please do it again and do it soon. That was 2017. And since 2017, at least 2 or 3 times a year, we've been holding all-day symposiums and workshops concerning African people in New Jersey. We just held one last week on Jim Crow in New Jersey. Part 1. Part 2, Jim Crow in New Jersey, will be done in October.
Oh, really?
So, and that's Sankofa. That group became Sankofa. So they're 2 different entities, but closely related.
Thank you for explaining that. Because again, like I think this whole subject is something that's more more readily available to people now than ever before.
You're right.
And I think we just got to keep it going.
And people want to know, we've never had difficulty getting an audience for our programs.
I bet.
We can fit
want to know.
between 75 and 100, and that's usually what we have. The last one, we were a little afraid because we've never done them during the summer. But there were 85 people who showed up.
Oh, that's great.
So it's something that we keep doing because we keep getting requests to do them. We are now have a series of programs. In 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And we know that the Revolutionary War is a war that we are still fighting. It was an unfinished revolution.
That's right.
You know, Thomas Jefferson wrote, all men are created equal. We know that they're not treated equally. And until they are, we have not fulfilled the promise of what the revolutionary did. So it's a failed revolution. But all of our programs are leading towards 2026 at this point, where we'll discover why is it that the black man and woman and child has not been able to achieve equality in this country. We know it's power and it's money, like I said in the beginning. But this is to point out to people why we have come to that conclusion and why reparations is so important, and why it's important to call it exactly what it is, reparations.
Yes.
But Dr. Epps, what does reparation look like to you?
Well, it looks, first of all, those things that the civil rights legislation sought to improve still need improving. Redlining should stop. It still exists, right? You cannot. Job discrimination has got to stop. It still exists, right? And we are not going to achieve true racial parity until we do something about all those ills in our society. If it means giving a free college education, I don't mean loans. I mean free. Because we have not been allowed to develop generational wealth because of the way we have been kept down. Well, then that's what it means. You know? If it means a decrease in the amount of interest that we have to pay for home ownership so that we can catch up, right? Then that's what reparations means. It's not one thing. It's looking at every area of life, every area of society, determine how people of color were marginalized, if not outright stamped upon through these years, and fixing it so that they can catch up to where the average white person is in that same economic category.
Exactly.
You know.
Well, you didn't ask me, my co-host, but Dr. Epps, I'm going to say, what does it mean to me? It means it means totally goods,
Beautiful.
free goods and services.
Okay.
Because
and
think about it, that's what they got,
That's
and
what
they
they
were
got.
in
That's
reparation
exactly what they
after
got.
World War One
Bring
and
that
the
answer.
other
And-
wars.
Yes.
They know they needed. That's where these housing came about.
And now,
That's why
what
free
little bit they
education
did
came.
give, they're trying to take back.
Yeah,
What
and
little bit they gave,
Little
they're
bit.
trying to take
no,
get
before
back.
they gave us anything, they had free education, and when they began to give us a little free
And still
education,
do.
they stopped.
They
it.
stopped.
But
enough
prior,
of that.
prior to that, they had the free housing.
Oh, yes,
They
yes,
built
yes,
housing
yes,
for
yes.
them. That's where those suburbs and those things were developed around.
Levittown and all
had
that,
to
yeah.
give them stuff
see
to
that?
get them back on track.
Military pensions.
Yeah, so
Military-
they
it's
know
every
that this
area
means-
of life.
Exactly.
Every area of life.
And for what we went through, there should be no question. Should be free goods and service
Oh, my
across the
goodness.
board.
Yes,
Free
yes,
health,
yes, yes.
free education, free housing, and then give us our money. Give us that.
Pay me what you
Pay
owe
me
me.
what you owe me, but that we are deserving of that. Because the only way we're going to get to a level playing field with any other group is for them to do that.
Yeah.
And then we will be at a level playing field. You give us what the free goods and service. We don't have to worry about the food. We don't have to worry about the schooling. Don't have to worry about
I'm not going to
whatever health.
distree with anything that you've said.
Then it
But
make-
one thing we still have to do along with us
What's that?
is get our ourselves together where we understand what this is, because until we truly understand why reparations and what we should do about reparations,
Yes, yes.
we're going to have pushback, and we're going to have people of color who allow that kind of pushback.
Yeah, because they don't know.
They don't understand. Yes.
Remember Dr. Epps, I said we're going to need our psychologists to unwind out the brain that's been trampled on. I used to call it brainwashing, and a good friend of mine, Dr. California calls
Yes.
it brain dirtying.
Yes.
So we
know
have
Dr.
been
Califani.
trampled on, and we
Yeah,
realize
yeah,
we got to admit that. We got to believe that. There's no shame on us. It's just what it is. So other folk will learn that, know that we understand. We have been messed with. We have been trampled on.
That's right,
We
that's
have
right,
been
that's
just
right.
denied so much and been done so badly with that we need something special done to it. And if we don't let them know we know that, they'll think that we're part to blame for whatever happening with us. Nothing to blame. In the book I wrote, there's two expressions that I ask us to look at and try to, decipher and try to make sure we understand. Excuse and explanation.
Yes.
Excuse is when you were born out of white privilege. Because I don't care what you have done, what you have been. Trump proved that. You can be the worst of anything, you be the president of the United States.
Yeah,
So it's an
it's
excuse when you are
convicted
not
felon.
making it to another level. But it's an explanation when black folks don't care what you say or what it looks like or what it might look like. Since we haven't been studied, you cannot declare that it's not an explanation rather than an excuse. So sometimes we just got to be careful with how we adopt or will allow people
have
to
to.
define things for us that we need defining ourselves.
It's exactly what I was trying to say with that.
Yeah,
That we
yeah.
have to, and it's not going to work unless we understand why.
Right,
You know.
exactly. And the only way we're going to understand why, one of the ways is for us to get our experts to define that for us the same as that expert defined that virus. When we tried to get the president of the United States, we didn't try, but when the president of the United States, who happened to be Trump at the time, came down to define that virus, and he said inject with bleach,
Maybe we could.
we know he probably was the most important man in the
That
world at that time, but that doesn't mean he knew.
Could raise to the ranks that he has risen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And have this kind of scattered thinking that he is not ashamed,
Not
to
ashamed.
shout out from the Baptist side.
Right.
Tells us what state we are in,
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Exactly.
something about the people who can support someone that he actually. Not that I was ever on his side, but if I had been, he lost me during that first election with the New Hampshire primary, if you probably remember, he was giving a speech. There were some hecklers in the audience, and he said, kick them out and don't let them take their coats. He said, it's 10 degrees outside. Let them freeze.
Yeah.
I said, so how can
he's a
anyone
trouble man.
condone
Yeah.
that kind of statement from, you want that kind of person to lead the country?
Yeah. He's very real.
You know?
Very real.
And
Very
there's some people
very
who
real.
are
Very
supporting
ignorant.
him. You know,
And-
we want this to lead. No, we don't.
Exactly. And similarly, do you think about a person like Clarence Thomas, who is the top of his game? Why would we want him to make any kind of determination about us? He doesn't know. He's ignorant to the fact that he is ignorant. But he has all the degrees, so that has nothing to do with that. It has to do with where your mind is and how you have been, you know yourself, and what you've been taught about who you are and where you come from and who you were before you got here. You know, because we were not slaves. We were enslaved, but we were not slaved over here. I am so glad that I was going to ask you, too, about you. Something I saw here I would want to know about. I see where you, as vice president for First Capital Campaign, which raised $8.4 million, came to my attention because of the great money they are raising around.
Yes.
And I looked at it. I said, "Oh my goodness, they better
Well,
get
and that was
Dr.
years
Epps."
that was years ago. Though.
Right, that was years ago. 8.4 million. I said, maybe you should join the crew. What do you think? Give us some information. What do you think about what's going on with the politics now?
I think it's wonderful, and I think that all the supporters have rallied around her.
Yeah.
I just I'm warning everyone, and I don't have to warn the two of you because I'm sure that you know that it's not going to be a party.
Right.
You know, until November, we have 100 days, right? It's not going to be 100 days of partying and feeling good like it was last week, because you noticed they were a little quiet last week because they're strategizing. You know, they're saying, okay, they flipped the table on us. Now what do we do?
What do we do?
You know, and
And they don't play. They come out with all guns. They
don't
come
play.
out.
They're after. You know, again, it comes down to that power and economics that they don't want. Why would they want to lose the White House again?
Yeah.
They don't want to do that.
And see, the Democrats are a little bit hesitant on things.
They
You know,
can't
I always
afford to
say they
be.
come in
Can't
with
afford to be.
they come to a gunfight with a knife.
Yeah.
or something. But they're a lot better now, but they're still a long way behind in terms of how they could combat what he comes out with. They wait, you know, until it's all done, and then the news people get it, and they, you know, amplify what he says, and not,
Can't do that.
you know.
Well, I disagree with Michelle Obama on one point. I think she said when they go low, we go high.
When they
Sometimes
go,
you got to go lower than low.
You get down the mud,
Right?
get in the
Get down
dirt.
with it.
You have to at least understand that kind of mentality, you know,
Exactly.
in order to go high. But
Uh-huh.
sometimes you have to, you know,
Yeah.
have
get down
had-
to the real
thank
nitty gritty,
you.
as
You know,
we
I'm
used to say.
Yeah, we've
Only
all
thing
worked
they-
in our life, and you know that not everyone means you goodwill.
Exactly.
Sometimes you have to.
Only thing they understand. You can use examples. That's what I do all the time. I can explain, so I guess use examples. You think about when you were a kid and was surrounded by bullies in school.
That's right.
The only way you can get combat that was to stand toe to toe.
Yeah.
You know, and then sometimes you become best of friends.
Yes, that's right.
Because you stand up for what you know is right.
That's right.
And just pray and know that God is always on your side if you're doing the right thing.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to have a woman, and especially a woman of color,
Yes.
as first president, the first female president of the United States.
Right.
So, I, of course, am for her campaign. And we'll even give a few pennies that I have myself.
That shows commitment right there.
Because one thing I also learned with fundraising is that it doesn't have to be an equal amount.
Right.
But if you demonstrate commitment and confidence, that
Right.
more comes to you.
Right.
That's beautiful.
You know,
Yeah.
so I've run organizations where I've had to raise money, and that I have found that works. People want to see your interest and know
Right.
what your thoughts are. And
Yeah, I think that's why the excitement was so.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm going to read a couple of my folks who's looking in. I listen to her nightly. She's phenomenal. Dana Robbins, I'm glad to know that you're calling in. Rashida Johnson, you're always here, and I appreciate it. Crenshaw Deborah, checking this out. Lloyd Showers, of course I'm watching. Good afternoon, that's my son. Robert Cabbage Talk, we're watching. My brother-in-law, oh my goodness, my family. Crenshaw Deborah, all right, sound. Jamar, my nephew down in North Carolina. I'm on Aunt Ruby. Lula, Salvador, sister. Wakia Cotton. Hey, Wakia, baby, glad you're watching. Just keep on watching. Stanley Jones, Stanley. So good to hear you all the way from Jacksonville, Florida. Just keep it going up. Someone else I haven't seen. Okay, let me see. Cousin Ruby, I see you. Lord Shybridge. I just so appreciate you all. Good afternoon, family, and welcome Dr. Epps. I don't know who said that. Just bring it down again. Let me see who said it. Oh, that's Sheila Bird? Okay, all right. I'm just so pleased, and you all know I just appreciate you coming, keeping us real here, watching,
Thank you
and
so much.
that's what
Thank
we're
you.
doing. We're trying to share knowledge, and not just any knowledge, but true knowledge. We get a lot of knowledge, and it don't always be what we need, but we just know that, and I'm always encouraged by a quote from the late Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, truth crushed to the earth will rise again.
That's right.
And I truly depend on that and believe that. And as long as we can have folks like Dr. Linda J. Caldwell Epps, we're going to keep it real. Now, we're going to ask you about the Project 2025.
Yes.
I don't know if do you watch Joy Reid?
I do watch
Yeah,
Joy Reid.
she's starting this today, all
Yes.
week. She will have.
I'm looking forward to
Right,
hearing what she has to say.
Yes, so the 91-page thing with you, right?
She's going to break it down.
And she's going to break it down
Yes.
and define and so give us some information because we really need to know about that. That is so obvious. I mean, they don't play around. They just
but they don't think
call
people
it like
going to read
is.
it because they hear
Yeah.
900 pages and
Yeah.
that
That's
scares
right.
a lot of people.
Well,
It was
and it's
a
scary
bad
that-
joke about us
That's
a long
right.
time ago. I don't know if it's still here that
And
if
this,
you, when
I
they
think-
hire some from black people, put it in the book.
That's what they claim,
Yeah, yeah,
until
yeah.
they thought, then they realized that we were not only reading, we writing.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say that, and that's
Just take it
that's
out
a
to
bad
school
thing.
now.
Why, and why do you? This man is in office
Yeah.
because he was in office anyway.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about Trump was in office because people are afraid.
Yes. Yeah.
We had a black man and his wife who were unabashedly black in the White House.
Right.
The
Yeah.
biggest thing they could complain about was that Michelle wore a dress that was sleeveless.
Right.
You know, they had to stretch hard to. And now you have all these news reporters
Yes.
and analysts on TV. You have these scientists.
Yeah.
From Elizabeth, Terry, you probably remember the late Dr. Richard Payne was the world's
yes.
leading authority
Is that something?
on end-of-life care, palliative care.
Yeah.
So you have all these people with all this melanin in them
Yeah.
doing these great things. That's scary. You know, it gets back to they're going to take over.
Yeah.
And we're marrying their sons and daughters, too. So, you know, we just, it's frightening to them.
It's frightening.
And so they have to come up with something, and that's why I'm so anxious to hear what Joy has to say
Yeah,
about it.
that's
Because
gonna be good.
whatever it is, I'm going to take it if they're
I know,
coming
it's
up as
scary.
a personal attack.
It is,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
scary. What little I learned about it, it would take you back 50 years at
Yes.
least. You know,
Well-
and that's the intent. You
Yeah,
know,
it's
they
intent.
see,
It's intent.
that's why you have such a large percentage, and I often wonder about that, of the white population in this country. Think about it. If that many are going for Trump, that means almost maybe over half, because the ones on the Democratic side are coming from black voters
Yeah.
or other minorities
Yeah.
combined with the white voters. But the majority of them, I guess, are for Trump. Now that's kind of scary. So that tells
Very
you that
scary.
they couldn't like what Trump is saying or his. They think of the only thing they're seeing is that he's taking them back to a place they have been.
Or a place of their comfort,
Yeah, where they want to be, where they knew
Yeah. Well, they felt
they were.
yeah,
Well-
they felt in charge.
They, and they still are in charge,
They are.
but they see us as a threat.
A threat,
You know,
yeah.
they
But
see
they're
us as a
definitely
threat.
in
Why
charge.
do you
They
think
don't
the-
want to give up anything.
The big banning books campaign
yeah.
that's going on.
Please.
Most of those books on the list have to do with people of color
Right.
on that banned
Right.
books list.
Exactly.
Even
Yeah.
children's LeBron James's children's
And
book
that's something-
is on
wow.
the list. All Toni Morrison's books
Yeah.
are on the
Yes,
list.
yes,
You know,
yeah.
those are
Maya
James
Angelou,
Baldwin,
yeah,
Maya
yeah,
Angelou.
all
There
right.
are books that are
On the list.
on that list. You know, so we can't read.
Right.
You know, and get a perspective, an African centered perspective
That's right,
on
yeah.
life, which
Yeah.
is what they absolutely do not want us to have.
Well,
Because
Dr.
that-
Epps, is there anything else you want to say? Because we are just about
we're
at
almost
the whole
finished.
time. But I want you to. But if you have anything else you want to leave with us, please do. So, okay.
One, please vote.
Okay.
And encourage everyone you know, if they're not registered, to register and to vote, not just in this upcoming presidential election, but we have seen that the lower courts are important too.
Yes,
Right.
And you really need
exactly.
to know your candidates and to vote skillfully
Yes.
and smartly
Yes.
about them. That's
Yeah.
number one. Number two, read something about our people every day.
Oh, yes.
Every
Please,
day,
yes,
even
daily.
if it's just a short paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
find something that you can read that is affirming about our people
Yes,
every
yes,
single day.
Now, talking about reading, do you have anything out, Dr. Epps, or books? If you do, promote it.
I see, now you're going to embarrass me because if people have been pushing me, publish the dissertation, you know, you tell all these, write all the stories down.
Yeah.
You give all these talks.
yes,
Just
yes.
collect, all the talks that you give and put that into a book collection.
Dr. Evans, I'm going to tell you something. You know, when we had Lawrence Ham on our show, before he wrote the book, I had asked him about it,
Yes.
and then he has a book out.
Yes, he does.
So again, so
Yeah,
that
yes, he does.
what you said can become flesh and it
That's right.
can become real.
That's what he's. We are for Juneteenth this year at my church. I'm usually the person in charge of the Juneteenth festivities. I don't really want to celebrate Juneteenth because when Juneteenth happened, people were still enslaved in the
Yeah.
state of
That's
New
right,
Jersey.
That's right.
So I try and do something else. This year we did the 60th anniversary of Freedom Summer and the
okay.
Freedom Rides.
Okay.
Larry Ham started us off.
See that?
And
Yes, yes,
it's a
yes.
full day, and we ended the day with Hezekiah Watkins, who was the youngest
wow.
freedom rider to be incarcerated for the protests. He was 13 years old at the time. He's now in his 70s, and we flew him up from Mississippi
Okay.
for that take. Which I should tell everyone, Atlantic City, and I don't remember the date. The state of Mississippi Humanities Council is doing markers everywhere where something significant took place in Mississippi during Freedom Summer,
Oh, wow.
which includes Atlantic City, New Jersey, when Fannie Lou Hamer and the Freedom Democratic Party tried to take over the Democratic
remember
Party
that.
convention.
Yes, I remember
Well, we are
that.
commemorating that this year in August.
Okay.
I'll send you the
Please do.
information.
We have to
Yeah.
bring you
Please do.
back for that.
Okay.
And our people who are looking in on us today, please make sure you press that subscribe button. Press subscribe so you can be updated on our future
Yeah.
programs.
And everyone that Dr. Epps said, please watch Joy Reid tonight,
Tonight, yes.
all through the week,
Yes.
because
At
she'll
7
be
o'clock.
educating us on this 2025 project that they're trying to push down our throat if they get in. Well, that won't matter. If they get in, they'll push any project out. But we need to know about it anyway.
Yes, we do.
Oh.
Thank you, Dr. X.
Well,
thank you
for
so much.
having me.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
my
thank you for
pleasure. We're
having
going to
me.
have you again if we can. All right.
And now I know where I'm going.
It's even better.
Okay, and for you out there who enjoyed the show, as always, you can let us know that by tuning in and by supporting us, supporting this
Subscribing,
station,
yeah.
subscribing, Ruby Shivers, Cash App, Zelle, or the old-fashioned way, old-fashioned check. We appreciate whatever you do. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you so much.
You look familiar too. Is everybody looking?
It's like a reunion here.
Yeah.
I just think I've met you somewhere.
Yeah. Are you not from? Are you from Elizabeth? No.
My wife is. and
Who's your wife?
I'm out there, last name Shell. That was her.
I knew Shells lived on my block. A whole big family of Shells. So
Yeah.
who is she?
Sandra Shell. She has a sister named Patricia Shell. Another sister named Barbara Shell.
Barbara Shell. I think I
Brother named
remember.
Joey Shell. Oh my gosh, you got some Tommy Shell.
Thomas, I think I remember. Ask her if she ever lived on Olive Street. Really, because I think there were a lot of Shells, and on then I think they moved to Emma or Henry Street.
Okay.
But it's a big family of
She did.
Shells.
She said
Yeah,
she moved.
yeah. That's her thing. Where have you? I know you.